Happy Wednesday, everyone. I hope you guys are doing great. Welcome to our weekly live show. Hi, Nafisa. Hi, Sonia. Hi, Kay Torres. Hello, everyone. Come on in. Please share where you're joining from. For those of you who are new, my name is Bola. I'm the founder and CEO of Clever Girl Finance. And we are an online financial education platform focused on empowering women to achieve financial wellness. I usually do this show with my amazing co-host Yasmir or with Esther also, who's also amazing, but they are both out today. Esther is not feeling well. So you guys have me all to yourselves and also a different location because I'm in my office today. Hello. But I appreciate you guys taking the time to join me. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about how to clearly define the priorities in your life. And I think this is a really important topic given that we are starting a new month, we are still in a new year, and it's really important to get clear on what your priorities are. So as you're coming in, please tell me where you're joining from and also share in the comments what is your number one priority for 2023. What is the one thing, the top of your priority list? And then we're going to get into clearly defining your priorities. Denise, you said you heard me on the Star Report last night. What was I talking about? I'm trying to think of what that was. Is that a radio show? I'd love to know more. Hello, Elise from Florida. Okay, so before we dive into the topic, talking about clearly defining your priorities, some quick announcements. So this live call happens every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then the replay is on here on YouTube as soon as it's over. So you can always catch this if you are joining late. If you're catching us on a replay, hi. And then I would love for you guys to check out the Clever Well Finance books. If you haven't already, you can see them behind me. You can have your local library order them, and you can get these books everywhere books are sold. There is Clever Well Finance, the first book, Ditch Debt, Save Money, and Build Real Wealth. There's the second one, Grow Your Money, which is focused on investing. And then the Side Hustle Guide, which is all about building a side hustle and increasing your income. And then my most recent book is Choosing to Prosper. So definitely check out these books. They also make great gifts, and you can find them as ebooks, audiobooks, and also, of course, physical books. Okay, so let's get into the topic. So if you're just joining, I mentioned sharing what your top priority is for the year. And Kate Torres, you said to rebuild your emergency fund. That's a great priority. Elise said organizing finances and rebuilding credit. So let's talk a bit more specifically about this, right? Because why do we care about priorities if we already have goals? So a lot of times we have so many different things we're trying to pursue. We're being pulled in so many different directions from friends, family, our work, careers, business, health, and all these things demand our attention. And so it's really important that we get clear on having priorities, things that we can focus on in our lives so that we know what's truly most important to us. So when we have those priorities, number one, we can avoid burnout, right? We take out all the unnecessary. It helps us decide what we're going to say yes to and what we're going to say no to. And it also helps us to better manage our time, because if there's any resource that we have outside of money that is limited, it is time, right? We all need more time. So it's really important to have those priorities. And I see Praise said, this live came just in time for me. Yay, exciting. Thanks for picking up the books. Okay, so one thing that's really important to get clear on before we get into defining priorities is what is the difference between a priority and a goal. And it sounds obvious, but sometimes people mix up these two. So I'm going to define them for you. Number one, a goal is a specific milestone that you hope to accomplish. So it's something that has an end date. I want to save $10,000 by December 31st. I want to save for a down payment on my house. I want to get my master's degree. Those are goals. Those are things that are specific. They're tied to a milestone and they're tied to a time frame. Whereas your priorities, on the other hand, these are broader and these guide your entire life, right? Your priorities don't have an end date. It's just something that is truly important to you that guides all the decisions that you make. And you kind of think about priorities in line with your values, the things that are most meaningful to you. But in addition to those values, your priorities means that you're determining how you place those things in order, how you place those things in order that are most meaningful to you. So, for example, a priority could be that you want to maintain your physical health, right? That's a priority. It could be that you want to build a career that is successful. You want to be a good parent. Those are priorities. So priorities are tied to the things that you value and are meaningful to you, whereas goals are tied to milestones and things that you want to accomplish. Okay, so that's the difference between priorities and goals. Hi, Andrea. Hi, Stacy. Hi, Jennifer. So you said this topic is right on time because you were saying you need to prioritize this weekend. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So priorities are really important because like I said, they help us get clear on how we manage our time. And because what happens that when we don't prioritize what's most important to us, when we don't define our priorities, we have all these things that we want to do. We have all these things that mean stuff to us, but we never end up accomplishing them because we haven't prioritized that, number one. Number two, we start to feel demotivated, we feel uninspired because where our focus is not aligned with our priorities, right? So it's really, really important that we get clear on our priorities and then align our goals as part of our priorities, right? So for example, my goal is I want to maintain physical health this year. Then my priority is I want to maintain physical health this year. Then a goal would be working out 3 times a week, right? My goal is I want to achieve a savings milestone this year. Then my priority, I keep mixing up, my priority would be I want to achieve a savings milestone this year. Then my goal would be I need to save X amount every week, right, in order to stay in line with my priority. So they go together. Your priorities, again, is part of your life, is the things that are most meaningful to you. It's basically your life culture, right? And your goals are tied to a milestone. Okay, so let's talk about how to define the priorities in your life, right? It's easy to say, oh, I'm going to prioritize that, I'm going to prioritize this, but we have to be really intentional about creating those priorities for ourselves. So I'm going to ask you guys a question. I want you to share in the comments. Do you feel that you are really clear on your priorities? Question mark. Are you clear on your priorities? When you think about the things that are most meaningful to you and the way you have your goals aligned, do you feel that your goals are a reflection of your priorities? Do you feel like your priorities are front and center of the life you want to live and what you want to accomplish? That's a question that even if you don't answer in the comments right now, it's something you want to think about, right? Okay, Tor says, gosh, I need pen and paper. You can catch the replay. It's something you want to think about so that when you leave this session, you can go and readjust and realign, right? Lisa, you said no, and that's fine, right? That's why you're here. So even, with me, sometimes I will set priorities of what's most important to me. And as time passes, I'll see that, wait a minute, Bola, you're not working in alignment with the priorities that you have set. Your goals are not aligned with these priorities, things that are most important to you. And the way I recognize that I'm disaligned with my priorities and my goals is that I start to feel like my goals are a chore, like my goals are a burden. Like I'm not really happy to pursue these goals. And the reason why I feel that way is because they're not in line with my priorities. They're not in line with my values. So I have to catch myself and say, wait a minute, Bola, let's get back to what's most important to you, right? And then let's realign those goals back to what is most important to you. So, Praise, you said, I know my values and major goals, but not how to prioritize them. We are going to talk about them. So number one, when it comes to prioritizing your goal, your life, the things that are most important to you in your life, the first thing is to set the time aside. Get a pen, get a piece of paper, sit down and get clear on what is most important to you. Write down the things that are most important to you. Your friends, your family, your career, your relationships, your finances, where you live, your wellness. What is most important to you? Write these things down, right? It's really important to set aside time to get clear on your priorities. Create this list of everything in your life that's important to you, right? So whatever it is, it could even be something like just making time 10 minutes in the morning to drink my morning coffee so I can have peace of mind. That could be a priority to you because that priority could set the tone for your entire day. So set aside the time, write down this list of everything, and then go over this list that you have made and organize them, right? So you want to organize them by what is absolutely most important to you at number one, number two, number three. And then you can even break them into categories if your priorities are tied to different aspects of your life, right? So, for example, you may have categories for priorities in your finances, priorities with your emotional health, priorities with your physical health, priorities with spirituality, or with um, hobbies. Like you might want to create priorities, categories for each of your priorities, so that you can get clear on what your priorities are in different aspects of your life. So for me, one of my priorities is being a good mom, being a present mom, right? And underneath that, I say, okay, number one is spending time with my kids, right? Number one is being an active participant in the things that my kids like to do. So those are my priorities in that category of being a good man, a good mom. Elisa, you said experiences, security, and giving. Those are your categories. Um, yeah, so reorder your categories and then reorder your priorities and then arrange them according to what is most important to you, right? So now you have your priorities, you have your categories. What is most important to you? Are your finances more important than, I don't know, hobbies as a category? I'm making these things up, right? Is your emotional health more important than relationships, right? You know what those categories are for your priorities in your life. And what you need to do is, based on what's truly important to you, organize them number one, number two, number three. One thing I will say about priorities is that because they are tied to life overall, because they are tied to what's most meaningful to you, you cannot base your priorities off of what somebody else is doing. You can base your goals off of what someone else is doing. For example, you may be trying to become debt free, and then somebody else has become debt free. So you're like, okay, I'm going to do exactly what they did and have the same goals that they did to pay off my debt. But priorities are more unique to your personal preference, the things that truly make you happy. And a lot of times what truly makes you happy can be vastly different from what makes another person truly happy, right? So you want to really look at your priorities from your own perspective and organize them in order of importance based on what's most important to you and not what somebody else is doing. So once you have that list, right, the next thing you want to do, so let me just recap. So I talked about setting aside time to list out your priorities, right? That's number one. Number two, create a list of all those priorities, that the things that are important to you. Number three, break your priorities into categories. Number four, organize them in order of priority. What is most important to you? And then number five is choose your non-negotiables. So I have priorities and things may come up and they may cause me to shift my priorities aside temporarily just to focus on this thing. It could be a career thing, it could be a family thing, it could be a finances thing, but something may come up that says, okay, Bola, you need to pause on this priority right now so that you can focus on doing this thing, helping that person, whatever it might be. But then you also want to get clear on what your non-negotiables are when it comes to your priority. There are priorities that you have in your life that are really important to you that you've been pushing to the side that you really need to focus on, and you cannot allow yourself to be distracted from them, even if it's just for a specific window of time. So, for example, maybe in 2023, one of your priorities is to build emergency savings. You don't have any savings whatsoever. You've just come through a difficult period of life and you know that it's important for you to have emergency savings, right? Then you can make this priority a non negotiable. Financial wellness for you in 2023 becomes a non negotiable, where you don't allow certain distractions or certain people or certain circumstances to derail you from that goal of achieving that financial wellness that starts with establishing that emergency fund, right? So it's really, really important. Jerry, you just made a fantastic point. You said once a priority is piggybacked to a habit, it becomes automatic. Yes. So basically, what is most important to you and how do you piggyback it to a habit? That's such a great point. I love that you share that. Physical wellness is a priority for you, right? the habit you piggyback it to is working out frequently, 3 times a week, 4 times a week. Financial wellness is a priority to you. How do you piggyback that to a habit? You decide every day I'm going to read a chapter of a personal finance book. Every week I'm going to tune into a personal finance live call, right? That's how you do that. So you create those non-negotiables. This is the ultimate priority for this next month, for this next quarter, for this next year. I cannot allow anything to distract me. And you need to be able to start communicating. And this is where you have to be able to say no. I say yes to you all the time, but guess what? Because of this particular priority in my life, because of this really important aspect of my life that I'm trying to organize my goals around to complete, I'm going to say no for the next week, for the next month, for the next 6 months, forever. I am saying no because this thing, this situation is a priority in my life, right? So define your non-negotiables. Number 6, you have that list of what is most important to you. You want to check in, you want to review it. You want to have your priorities listed right next to those goals that you have, right next to your debt payoff goals, right next to your savings goals, right next to your working out goals. Have your priorities as the first section. Financial wellness, right? Emotional wellness, mental wellness, physical wellness, career success, business success. Put those priorities, relationship success, put those priorities right on top of where your goals are, so that as you review your goals, you look at your priorities and you make sure that your goals are aligned to those priorities that you have. So I'm just checking in to make sure that you guys are still there with me. If you are, type in the comments. Sandra, you said financial happiness is my priority for 2023. I was too distracted in 2022. I have to stay focused this year. So then you want to make this a non-negotiable. Jennifer, you said my priority is getting my finances in order. I'm so ready to tackle the debt I've created. I'm taking steps, but it gets overwhelming at times. So your priority is getting finances in order. Then I want you to set goals underneath it that say specifically what aspects of your priorities what aspect of your finances you want to get in order, right? Whether it's paying off debt, whether it's emergency savings, whether it's learning about investing, and then tie those goals to timelines. I'm going to pick up a book about investing and read it in the next 8 weeks. I'm going to open my first brokerage account and invest my first $1,000 in the next 2 months. Like, you want to tie your goals into this big priority that you have, right? So you might say you may have a big chunk of debt you need to pay off, right? That's a goal. Set a timeline and then decide, okay, every week I'm going to pay off X amount of debt tied to this goal that's tied to this priority of mine of getting my finances in order. So I see a couple questions. So let me take a question and then I'll keep going into the points. So Praise says, how do we balance conflicting priorities and values? For instance, wanting to start a business versus wanting to have kids. This is such a great question. So I think there's no right answer to this, right? Because wanting to start a business and wanting to have kids are two very personal things. I would say that it is possible to do both, but you just have to pick the order, right? Because sometimes it's difficult to do both together. So I have a business and I also have kids, but there is a time where I had to focus on my kids, and there was a time when I had the time to focus on my business. So I think because these things are two such strong priorities that can stand alone on them by themselves, I think what I do, what works for me, is I make time for each of them as they are most important in that day. But ultimately, for me, my kids are number one priority. They are a non-negotiable, right? So you kind of have to figure out, okay, can I balance these two priorities and how do I fit them into my world? Or maybe I do one, then the other. Have the kids and start the business. Start the business, get it on its feet, then have the kids. Or figure out, how do I adjust my timeline to do both? So this is a situation where you really have to sit with yourself and think through and answer this question. I can't answer it for you. Okay. Okay, so let's get back to, so I talked about choose your non-negotiables, write down your list, check in on your list often, right? So again, you have this list of priorities, you put your list of priorities alongside your goals and then set reminders and start checking in. It is very easy to get disaligned, is that a right word, or misaligned from your priorities when you're not checking in. Like you may be pursuing goals and pursuing goals, especially goals that take significant amount of time, where as your life shifts and your goal shifts, you kind of start to veer off a little bit from your priority. So make sure you're constantly checking in with your priorities and with your goals. Set a reminder once a week, just glance at your document. My priorities are this. And it's okay if your priorities change. It's okay if your goals change, perfectly fine. But you want to check in so that you make sure that every week, every month, in that current moment, you're aligned with the things that are most important to your priorities and you're taking the actions and working towards the milestones to help you achieve those priorities, maintain those priorities, and those are the goals. You're welcome, Praise. So, Kate Torres, you said my goal is to sell stuff I don't use, take my vacation in France close to my home. So, it sounds like to you an experience is a priority for you, which means you're willing to give up certain things, like the things that you don't use, to gather the money towards this priority of experience, one of which is a goal to take a vacation in France. So, that's really nice. So again, this is all about getting clear on what is most important to you. If you're saying, okay, my goal is this year to take a vacation to Europe. Next year, I want to go to Asia. The following year, I want to go to Latin America. Your priority right here, based on what you're saying, based on these goals for all these trips, is you love experiences. You love travel. This is something that's part of your that makes you feel happy, right? How do you align those goals into your priorities? Okay. The next thing you want to do is, and I'll go over the list again because I have it on my screen here, but the next thing you want to do is look at your schedule. Based on your priorities, based on your goals, are you making time in your schedule to work on these goals that ultimately lead to your priority? Because we all talk a good talk. We all talk about, yeah, this is important to me. I'm going to do this year. 2023 is going to be the year, this, that, this, that. Are we making time for those things we say we want to do? Do we have it built into our schedule for our physical wellness, for our mental wellness, for our financial wellness, to learn about business, to improve our careers? How are we spending our time based on the priorities and the goals we have set for ourselves? Really, really important. Look at your schedule. Are you making time for what's most important? And then finally, when it comes to your priorities, you want to create boundaries. You want to create boundaries to prevent other people from taking up your time and getting you offline from or off path from your priorities, right? Because we set the intention, we're going to do all this stuff, and then there's just some people that just know how to take up your time. Some people don't realize it. Some people are selfish. Some people have no respect for your priorities. They have no respect for your goal. They don't believe that you can do it. They don't like, what does she mean wellness? What does she mean financial wellness? Who does she think she is? Who is financially well in this family? Why does it have to be her? You need to set boundaries with people and things, and time sucks, right? You need to set a boundary with Netflix because as opposed to working on these priorities, you're spending all this time binge watching something. Nothing against Netflix. I love a good Netflix show, but there is a time for everything. And if something's a priority for you, that priority comes before the Netflix, right? There are some people that are just they they're so selfish that they have no respect for the fact that you are trying to accomplish something. You need to set boundaries with them. You know what? I can't hang out today. I can't talk on the phone today. You know what? Let me text you back in about 2 hours when I'm done working on my priorities. I mean, say it in a nice way, but you know what I'm talking about, right? So, so you have these priorities. So I'm going to go over that list again. Let me go over the list again. So I said 8 things. Number one, set aside time to work on your priorities. Number two, create a list of your priorities, right? All the things that are important to you, write them down. Number three, organize your priorities in order of importance, break them into categories if necessary. Number four, start working on what's most important. Five, choose your non-negotiables. Six, check in on your list often. Seven, look at your schedule and make sure you're making time for your list. And eight, create boundaries, right? And just as a reminder, as you set these priorities are like anything. You have to stay focused on them. You have to maintain them in a way, right? If something is most important to you, you have to maintain the way you take actions to keep it most important to you. Because there are many things in life that will distract you from your priority, right? Could be work, could be kids, could be your relationship, it could be a business, it could be TV, family. So you want to make sure that you're walking in intention to keep your priorities as your priorities in your life, right? That means really being clear on what it is that you want to achieve. So going back to that first point of understanding what are your priorities, eliminating distractions, right? You may need to take a break from your phone sometimes, take a break from people sometimes. But it's just so important that you get clear on what's truly important to you. You have to be clear on your priorities. All these steps I just mentioned, all these tips I just mentioned, they only work if you have identified what is truly important to you, the things that are meaningful to you in your life, the things that you want to focus on. So that's the first step. It could mean, you know what, you're going to take a weekend off and just sit down with yourself and just write down everything in your life that's important and then organize them according to what's number one, what's number two, what's number three. Kator says, I need to take a break from Korean drama. You know what? I got into one of those shows over the pandemic. It was called Eternal King Monarch, something like that. And then it was like 40 episodes long, and each episode was like an hour and a half. And my husband will come in and he'll be like, what are you watching? Some of them are good though. But yes, they are time consuming. It's back to real life, right? Um, so anyway, when it comes to priorities, I would say that the two places I find most important for many people is health, right? Because your physical well-being, your mental well-being, your emotional well-being, if you put those in the category of health, because if we don't have our health, we don't have anything. We can't really pursue any of our goals because we're not in that sound physical, mental, or emotional health. So that's a great place if you're trying to figure out, okay, where do I start with figuring out my priorities? Your health is a great place. And when you're healthy, sometimes we take it for granted that we are healthy, so we don't prioritize this wellness until we get sick. So it's important to prioritize health, right? And then secondly, I would say prioritize your finances, right? Because your finances, money is a tool that can help you achieve so many things in your life. So your health, your finances, your relationships, people, right? Life goes beyond money. There are people that you want to maintain relationships with because it also ties into your health, into your emotional well-being, into your mental well-being. I'm talking about the right kind of people. So those are some places that you can start when it comes to prioritizing, defining the priorities in your life, and figuring out where you start with prioritizing the things that are most important to you. So I'm just going to scroll back through the comments and see what else you guys were saying. So Jerry, you said you traded Taco Tuesday for 20 Tuesday and put $20 in my emergency fund. I love that. So you took away one non-essential and created another thing that's tied to your priority of financial wellness. So transferring $20 every Tuesday. And it sounds like a fun challenge, right? 20 Tuesday. We should do that, guys. Thank you for sharing that. So those are the topics, the points I wanted to cover in terms of defining your priorities. I haven't done a live by myself in a long time, so I hope I did okay. Yasmin will be back next week. Thank you, Nafisa. And Esther is hopefully feeling better. So say a prayer for her. She's a little under the weather. But thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate you. I appreciate the time that you take out to spend with me, with us every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I don't take that lightly. I'm super grateful. Andrea, you said pop quiz. What does that mean? Was it when I asked the question earlier on? But anyway, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so much. Please check out the books if you haven't already. And then when it comes to priorities, defining goals, stop by clevergirlfinance.com, our blog. We have tons of articles on mindset and motivation and wellness. We talk about priorities on there, goal setting, circle of influence. So the blog is a really fantastic resource. And of course, once you determine what areas are most important to you, we have courses on all these different topics that likely align with your goals, personal finances, business, career, and etc. So I will catch everyone next week. Thank you for being here again, and I appreciate you. Take care. Bye.